What's up, everybody? You just saw, like everybody else, Baylor has finally fired their head coach, Art Briles. It's been a week of a whole bunch of reports coming through. A lot of dominoes have been starting to fall. I mean, at the beginning of the week, we heard that Baylor actually had fired President Ken Starr, and then they came out and denied that report. But I heard on the radio yesterday from Chip Brown from Longhorns Digest, who's been kind of big on this story. He said that while Starr has apparently not been fired, that relationship is being tarnished altogether with every passing moment. So, you know, there's a part of me that feels a little sorry for Ken Starr because he's the president of the university. He's not necessarily involved in everything football every day. You know, he has other things to take care of, and it seemed like at the beginning of the week that Baylor just used Ken Starr as the fall guy and kind of just said, well, we're going to let Art Briles stay because he wins 10 games a year and we're Baylor and we suck at football. And that's the only reason why I felt sorry for Ken Starr. But now that, you know, Briles has now been fired, I don't feel sorry for anything. They've already had 2 players since 2009 convicted for rape. Tevin Elliott, I believe, was the first one, and then Sam Ukuwachu, the transfer from Boise State, and the more noticeable headline grabbing name. I'm sorry if you can't hear me over the Lowe's PA. But anyway, that's going to happen. But yeah, Art Briles' son is going to stay on as offensive coordinator, I guess. I don't know how Baylor responds on the field this season. They already had to replace their entire offensive line, and you know, anytime you're a college football fan and your team has to replace your entire offensive line, you know you're not going in on a very successful season right off the bat. But they do play a bunch of elementary school teams in the beginning of the year, so you know they'll at least win 4 or 5 games, but we will see. But other than that, it's been pretty wild, and I'm sure Twitter is blowing up with more information. So if you guys see anything, because I obviously can't see it being on Periscope, if you guys see anything, just go ahead and share. Or if you have any questions or comments, just go ahead. It's kind of a free-flowing Periscope today since it's just breaking. I thought I'd just jump on and talk about it. But Baylor finally did the right thing. Of course, it took about 2 years of extreme pressure from the media, from fans, for them to pull the trigger finally. And at the end of the day, I guess they can be commended, but there's too much evidence, and there's too much. Yeah, I did see that Briles deleted his Twitter account, although I don't know if that's necessarily his personal account. I'm sure an intern ran it, and they probably were like, let's delete this, but truth don't lie, right? It's just a sad situation all around. I never really wanted to talk about it because, you know, all these reports that have been coming out on Outside the Lines or on random publications, you know, they're a whole bunch of, I don't even want to say hearsay, but nothing had been proven. But when that much accusation kind of builds up, it certainly paints a terrible picture, and it was very apparent that control was being lost at Baylor, and it's really sad. When you think about, you know, Baylor is a private school, it's a Baptist school, it's a very expensive school to go to, and parents send their kids there, you know, with hopes that, you know, they'll get a really good education and that they'll be safe. And, you know, there are a handful of parents now that feel that they may have made the wrong decision in sending their daughters to Baylor because they were not in a safe environment. And hopefully Baylor can, you know, move on from this and not only fix their reputation, but fix their philosophy on how to look at life. And that, you know, I know football is very important in, you know, in the money world, and, you know, we all love it, but it can cross the line. It crosses the line a lot, sadly, and this one it definitely did. So, but at the end of the day, it's over now, hopefully. But if you guys have any questions or comments, go ahead. What's worse, Penn State or Baylor? You don't really want to compare them, but I guess Penn State's situation was worse because it happened for decades, whereas this Baylor thing has just happened for apparently the Art Briles tenure. But I mean, we've seen this before where universities, especially universities with football programs that aren't very successful, they'll do anything they can to gain an upper hand in recruiting and on the field, and they'll hire these coaches that have otherwise loose moral codes, and they overlook, you know, arrests, they'll overlook drug charges, and apparently they'll overlook rape. I always assumed that rape was something that you couldn't overlook, but hopefully they can just move on from that. But now Baylor has a brand new stadium, and I know Big 12 fans that grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s. Waco was always a trip that you could go on and know that your team was probably going to win. But now, let's go OKC. Oh yeah, let's go Oklahoma City. I'm nervous for tonight. But yeah, now Big 12 fans can travel to Waco to go to a brand new stadium and enjoy themselves a whole lot more now. But Baylor still have talent. They're not going to be a pushover by any means, but if anybody had any questions or comments, just go ahead and share them, because otherwise I'm going to close this off and hopefully go get my car. Anyway, is everybody excited for Game 5 tonight? I'm very nervous for it. But okay, if everybody just wants to be quiet, that's cool too. Stick with us on the land-grant gauntlet. I'm sure we'll write a story for 2 or 7 on the subject. And you're from Paris, so welcome. We'll be covering it as the day goes on. Yeah, Chris, the guy that runs land-grant gauntlet, he's working on it right now. And we'll get it out to you as soon as possible, and we'll be sure to cover it as best we can. And again, everybody, thank you for joining. And if anything else comes out, especially before the game tonight, I might jump back on here and talk about some more information that comes out. All right, everybody, I hope you all have a good rest of the day, and go Big 12.